I think we're live. Are we live, boys and girls? Call live. I'm just trying to get stuff set up. Family, I feel like it's a Monday, but it feels like a Wednesday. A Monday that feels like a Wednesday. Just trying to set up the propaganda proper. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hope I could come in loud and clear. I'm sure y'all would tell me if I am coming in loud and clear. We all be nation, because we all be in it to win it. So we all be nation. Yay, yay. See something. I think I'm good. I'm good, family. Yeah. Checking on chat room. Are we good, my family? I'm coming in. Coming in loud and clear. Coming in loud and clear. I'm coming in, family. Let me know. I'm checking in. Waiting for people to come in before I do my thing. Oh, I hope y'all had a great weekend. This is a weird place because what? The day after tomorrow is 4th of July. The 4th of July. Hope y'all got y'all new TV sets, furniture, bed mattresses, new car. Because it's the 4th of July. Because capitalism is the real holiday. Anytime they have a blood sacrifice, it's all about making money in this system. Dr. King Day is all about selling things. 4th of July is all about selling things. Christmas, sacrifice of Jesus or Jesus or Yahweh. They selling stuff. Everything, when there's a holiday, September 11th is a holiday. They're going to start selling cars and stuff on September 11th. You know, September 11th, sale. Anything in this country is all about selling your soul, selling things to people they don't need. Welcome to America. This is America. This is America. Yeah. So let me just make sure everything's in proper working order. Y'all will tell me if everything's proper. But we're going to talk about some things. This is why it's so important to have Black First Media. Nobody's talking about this is Medgar Evers' birthday. Nobody's really talking about this is the 101st anniversary of the East St. Louis race massacre, not riot, not disturbance, but black genocide. Black genocide is America's national pastime. Na, 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 na. Oh, man. Yeah, LeBron James doing his thing. King James. Okay, it's 10 of y'all out there. Gonna get this party started. Let's get it started. Oh. Let's get this party started. Waiting for more people to come on in. Come on down. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Ain't nobody talking about what we talk about on this channel. I know there's some channels out there that does a pretty good job of keeping y'all informed. And I am thought provocateur #1. I would do my part, but there's a lot of other things going on in the world. And the more distracted y'all become, the more evil they can do without anybody questioning their motive. So the more distracted you are with sports and LeBron James and rap and reality TV, the more evil they can do that can impact the generations. So remember that, boys and girls, family. It's all to keep you entertained while you're on your way to hell. This is what they do. Yes, sir. So, yeah. You hear me loud and clear. Thank you, K. A.L.L. I look old and tired. Well, we all get tired. I don't sleep well. I be on the road a lot. be doing work, and it is what it is. It comes with the territory. You know, you won't be well rested in times like this if you actually are concerned and care about humanity. You won't be well rested. You won't get your 8 hours in. And some people that can actually, I mean, like Harry Truman, he dropped the A bomb on the yellow people, on Japanese people. I think he got his 8 hours of sleep. He didn't lose no sleep over dropping the A bombs on humanity, especially on yellow people. So it is what it is. So, thank you all for joining. Wait for more people to come on in. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear still. What's up, Tap Peoples? Thank you for tuning in tonight. Got a lot to talk about. There's always something going on. I know my voice messages be full of stuff. People leave like 2-minute, 3-minute voice messages. I don't call everybody back. But I do listen to everybody phone call messages. Really, I'm on a one-man movement at this moment. Yes, I do collaborate with people on things. I do work with different organizations and individuals, but really I'm a one-man Wakanda right now. I'm trying to move. Been on the move a lot this year. Gave up my apartment at the end of January. So I'm basically on the road, you know, reporting from the road. I got a lot of stories to share, but not a lot of time to edit all these stories. But what will help is people will support. I know people say they love the content, that they really dig Gregory. May he rest in forever glory and peace. They also love the Judge Joe Brown things. They also love my point of view, or some people that they tolerate my point of view. But it's very important that we support black media in this time because the stories need to get out. Other perspectives need to be interjected into the conversation. So it's very important that other voices be heard. And also when you support platforms that you enjoy their perspective or his perspective or perspective, our perspective, that it enables us to get other points of views out there into the dialogue, into the chorus as well. So it's very important to support people. Yeah, it is to keep you entertained while you're on your way to hell. Because a lot of people talking about they trying to get right. They don't want to go to hell. Well, you already in hell. If you in a place where you cannot have peace of mind, if you are alive right now and you cannot even have peace of mind in your home, then guess what? You are in hell. If you are in a place where you always stressed out, where you always waiting for that phone call that so-and-so finally did it, then you are in a state of hell. Let's not mistake this. This is, Earth is black folks' hell. White folks' playground, but black folks' hell. But is it possible to raise hell to get some peace of mind? Or is it possible even to raise hell to go to heaven? That's where we need to talk about. But if you don't know what we've been through, then how can you understand that you are living in hell? Like, yes, tonight we're going to talk about Medgar Evers, one of our greatest civil rights heroes and icons and martyrs. You know, the word martyr is thrown around loosely like the word legend these days. Everybody thinks so-and-so is a legend. Everybody thinks so-and-so is the GOAT or is a martyr. I know people have suggested to me that my saying that XXX Tentacion is the Tupac of his generation is blasphemy. Blasphemy! Baby, baby. It's blasphemy. They say that he is not Tupac. And I agree. He is not Tupac, but he is the Tupac of his generation, meaning that he is the artist that connected with the young, with the youth. He had that special connection. Now we know that another rapper has been killed over this past weekend in Toronto. One of somebody from Drake's entourage. You know, Drake just released an album last week, The Scorpion, because I believe he's a Scorpio. But anyway, this guy named Smoke Dogg, may he rest in forever peace and glory, was a guy connected to Drake. He was killed in Toronto. Some people allege over some old gang beef. I don't know. I don't think it's gang related. I don't think it's rap related. I think it's life related. It's bigger than hip hop. Hip hop. It's bigger than hip hop. It's about life. Envy, jealousy, greed existed before this so-called hip hop culture. Like I said, go back to Tupac when he said in America's Most Wanted, niggas been dying for years, so how can they blame us? So yes, I believe that X is a generational touchstone artist for his generation, just much like Tupac was that artist for my generation. I'm not trying to compare apples and oranges. Let me see. People always trying to disrupt stuff while you trying to do things, man. I'm busy. I'm busy trying to feed the people. Trying to water these crops and feed the plants. Give that nourishment. Feeding the people, folks. Don't call me right now. People been blowing my phone up. Somebody said they from East St. Louis. Welcome. I hope you know about today marking the 101st anniversary of the East St. Louis race massacre. I hope you're familiar with that. If you are from East St. Louis, you should know about the history of what happened in your community. And it's definitely related to what's going on right now in your community. East St. Louis produced a lot of great, gifted people. People like Catherine Dunham, the great modern dance choreographer and anthropologist, and also the one and only Sir Miles Davis, one of the most important musical figures of the 20th century and of all time, came out that community. But what a lot of people are not aware of is the race massacre that happened in East St. Louis 101 years ago, where you had white folks go out their mind, white folks going wild. Come tell you, race massacres are normally started, what y'all call riots, I call massacres or race wars, are normally started by white people. A lot of times these race massacres and wars are started by police. So y'all keep on talking about what's wrong with the police. Police always been like that. Police were the slave catchers for the property owners. It's like what the comedian George Carlin used to say in his acts. This is an ownership society. If you don't own anything, you ain't worth anything. You're not important. So you got a lot of people who do not own anything crying for justice in a just us system. You're not important enough to warrant any concern. I mean, East St. Louis is right across the bridge from St. Louis City, right? And we know what happened in St. Louis. You go to St. Louis and come out I-55, you go by that nice shiny courthouse. The courthouse all shined up on a dome, shiny dome courthouse, shiny arch. But I call misery, not Missouri, not misery, but misery. You're going into the state of misery. It's the show me state. And also, I am a descendant of Dred Scott. I'm a spiritual descendant of Dred Scott because it was in the state of misery that he was told by the U.S. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney that he has no rights, that the white man is bound to respect you nor your descendants have any rights. You cannot even own intellectual property. This is what's going on right now. Black folks, we are the permanent scorched bottom of that pot, of that so-called melting pot. We're not going to be allowed in large volumes to rise to the top of that pot. It's impossible. People talk about the crabs in the barrel. They got it all wrong. See, this is like a lack of understanding. People say we like crabs in barrel. It's not that the crabs trying to pull each other down. They are trying to climb to the top to get away from the fucking heat that's coming at them at that bottom, at that permanent bottom. So you're not, as a crab, you're not trying to destroy your fellow crab. You're trying to do something about survival, about self-preservation. And this is the system where white power is based upon divide and conquer. See, black power is unity and solidarity, but the way the system works is a white power system because it's all about survival for white people because they the smallest group in terms of population on the planet, but they got you thinking that y'all minorities when y'all the largest group of people on the planet. But they let you know it's not about this brute force. You control people's minds. You control their reality. You can control their destiny. So this is why it's so important to know about East St. Louis and what happened there 101 years ago in July of 1917, where you had black migrant workers coming from the South. A large majority of the black folks in East St. Louis at that time was from Mississippi. So you had these black folks that was willing to work less for less money at these factories up north, which is really up south. Like Malcolm X said, anything south of Canada is the South, is Mississippi. So you had black workers being recruited to come up north to places like East St. Louis to work these factory jobs for less money than the white workers who were protected by the union. As you all should know, unions were formed in this country to keep skilled black labor force out of work. See, the most skilled labor force coming out of the Civil War were former enslaved Africans. Our ancestors built this country for free. The corner or foundation of capitalism is free labor. You cannot have all this ridiculous wealth without, you can't have it by paying everybody a fair wage. You got to rob the people that build this thing for you, this thing of yours, not this thing of ours. It's not La Cosa Nostra, because we're not a part of the club. It's members only. That thing of theirs. So we built it, blood, sweat, and tears and all. So you had the white folks were mad that the black folks were willing to do the work that they wouldn't do for those wages. Sound familiar? Like when people make the argument that illegal immigrants would do the job that nobody else won't because they don't get paid that much to do it. You got to think about the jobs that the illegal immigrants are taking or are getting are jobs that traditionally black folks held, service jobs. I'm not talking about the cat, the engineer from India and all that stuff. And that's another story. Or you could actually make the argument that public education has made it where you have to depend on foreigners coming from overseas with advanced mathematical skills to do certain jobs that we were having Americans do, because the system has been dumbed down to such a degree. So the white folks got mad, but the thing about it was that was part of it. It added tension to what was going on in East St. Louis. But also, like I said, every riot or massacre, race massacre, has law enforcement in the mix. If they're not the instigator or the fire starter, they are a part of that mix. So you had an incident happened with the police in East St. Louis. I believe it was a shooting incident, and it escalated from there. So you had this, white mob terrorizing black folks started July the 2nd all the way through July the 4th. It made national headlines where white folks are setting buildings on fire and forcing people at gunpoint to go back into those buildings. They throwing babies into fires, stomping on baby heads, raping women, lynching people from poles, from telephone poles. Anything I can think of that comes to my imagination. Like we all talk about Black Wall Street. We all look at that movie Rosewood. All the things I can think of, them white folks did, them devils did. Okay? That's what they did. So the papers, some estimates said means 100 black folks were killed. Some estimates had 250 black folks. And some other estimates said thousands of black people. Killed a lot of folks, black people drowned in the Mississippi River trying to get away. You had black folks who drowned by the hundreds, if not thousands, trying to get away from these white folks. And this all happened in several days. The nation knew about it. Everybody knew about what's going on in East St. Louis, but nothing was done to stop it. The white folks just went wild. They went crazy. So that's white terrorism. That's state-sponsored terrorism that happened in East St. Louis. And you can make the case they never recovered from that. East St. Louis was a growing city in the 19-teens, and by the 1960s, you had a thing called white flight that took place in places like Detroit and other big city places where white folks were leaving the inner cities to go to the suburbs to get away from black people. I ain't gonna say black, brown, and yellow people. I'm gonna say they'll get away from black folks. They'll run away from their shadows. So East St. Louis, now it has a reputation of being some type of place that's very negative. Although a lot of great, brilliant people came out of East St. Louis. Like I said, Miles Davis, Catherine Dunham, what's the sister name? Jackie Joyner Kersey. That's the great Flojo's sister-in-law. Jackie Joyner Kersey, I think her name was. There's a lot of great people that came out of East St. Louis. But what people don't know, even I'm sure people that live in East St. Louis now, about the significance of what happened there in July of 1917. Now, they did have a commemoration ceremony for several days last year around the anniversary of the East St. Louis race massacre. But I want to encourage everybody here who's listening to the sound of my voice, who really have a compassion and a heart and a mind and a soul for doing this God work, It's in your own way to do the research. Share what happened during the East St. Louis race riots or massacre. It's not a riot, it's a massacre with your people. Use this technology to get the word out. It's like I remember I was listening to something Baba Dick Gregory told me when I've been working on this Fort Pillow project. I had talked to him about, could he promote it? He did a little short endorsement of what we were doing to commemorate the ancestors who were massacred by General Nathan Bedford Forrest during the Fort Pillow massacre of 1864. Now, this year, we manifest that moment into a movement where we got a historic marker. On Juneteenth, we dedicated this historic marker in front of the Memphis National Cemetery in honor of the ancestors. Like my organization, We All Be Group Incorporated, we raised nearly $3,000 from the community. We partnered with different institutions and even descendants of the survivors and victims of the Fort Pillow Massacre to bring this for our people, to let our people know as they go to this cemetery to visit their loved ones who were lost in all these wars that America waged, these blood sacrifices, that they will never forget the blood sacrifices made at Fort Pillow back in April 12th, 1864. April 12th is a very significant date in history. April 12th, 1861 is when the Civil War started in Fort Sumter, South Carolina. April 12th, 1945 is when FDR was found mysteriously dead at his place down in Warm Springs, Georgia. April 12th was the last day that U.S. military intelligence left Memphis. They came into Memphis March 28th, the same date of Dr. King's last march. And then they left April 12th, 1968, just 8 days after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Take a look. It's all online. And read Dr. William Pepper's trilogy. Read his last book in the trilogy about the Dr. King assassination. And it talks about that. Read the book that the ancestors, Baba Dick Gregory and attorney Mark Lane put out called Codename Zorro. See, Dick Gregory was a pioneer in doing the assassination research work on both JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. He was on that show with Geraldo Rivera called Good Night America when they premiered the nationwide or world premiere of the Zapruder film that shows the assassination of President JFK. He was there. So Baba Dick Gregory did that work, and we should do a better job of researching our heroes and sheroes who really put in that work for the people, because a lot of us don't really know. We get all hypnotized by Beyonce and Jay-Z and Drake and Coachella and Pulitzer Prize and Wakanda parties. But let's look at the real work that these real people have done that have laid the foundation for our success and as well as our survival. So that's very important. I want to thank everybody. Good to see you, Bala Nice. Thank you for your support. And thank you, Crypto T. Thank you. And Stefan Parham. Parham, thank you as well. King Jiju. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just messing up y'all names, but I thank y'all for tuning in. Yes, Dr. Harry Edwards was actually inspired by Dick Gregory when they led that protest at the 1968 Olympics when them brothers they did the Black Power Fist. Dick Gregory did a one-man protest in St. Louis 4 years prior. I believe it was 4 years prior to protest. And it was trying to get the athletes at the Olympic trials to agree with him to protest against America. And he thought he failed. But what he didn't realize that Dr. Harry Edwards, who's from East St. Louis, was in St. Louis. I believe he's from East St. Louis. Y'all can correct me. But Dr. Harry Edwards was in St. Louis at that same place where Dick Gregory was protesting. I believe Dick Gregory said he had somebody spit on him for protesting, saying that the athletes should protest at the Olympics or should boycott the Olympics. And he thought that it didn't work, but Dr. Harry Edwards was there and he observed Dick Gregory protesting. So you had what manifested in the 68 Olympics, courtesy of Dick Gregory, just like Dick Gregory is connected to the 3 civil rights workers. Because I know y'all know on June 21st, 1964, which is the first day of summer, June 21st, and also it was Father's Day, that those 3 civil rights workers were kidnapped by law enforcement and the Ku Klux Klan and lynched. And Dick Gregory was involved in raising the money as a reward to find out what happened to these people. Mickey Schwerner James Chaney, and Andrew Goodman. 2 Jews and a black guy from Mississippi. And Dick Gregory was involved in raising the money to find out what happened. See, it's a lot of things. Dick Gregory was also the inspiration for Freedom Summer of 1964, which brought those 3 civil rights workers. Oh, what James Chaney was from he was from Mississippi, he was from Meridian. But what brought those 2 white boys down to the South and the white college students was inspired by what Dick Gregory did when the Kennedy administration cut out the welfare and food stamps for the black folks in Greenwood, Mississippi. Yes, I said the JFK administration cut off food stamps and benefits and welfare to the black people of Greenwood, Mississippi, because they got involved in trying to demand that their right to vote be respected. They wanted the franchise, and they got disenfranchised even more. So Dick Gregory actually, with the help of Hugh Hefner, got several planes full of food and supplies and delivered those food and supplies to the people of Greenwood, Mississippi. That's one man that did that. And he inspired Freedom Summer 1964. And the reason why we know this is because the people who organized the Freedom Summer 1964, people like the great Bob Moses, said this in documentary films and in newspaper articles. You look at Freedom Summer 64, the documentary came out 4 years ago that premiered on PBS. They give Dick Gregory the credit for inspiring them to do Freedom Summer 64. So y'all just think of Dick Gregory as this old cranky guy who used to curse out young black dudes. He got a reason to be pissed off. This man did so much for humanity. He was a true humanitarian, and he gave up. Bill Cosby got his spot. Dick Gregory basically blood sacrificed his career and gave that up for the people. And Bill Cosby took his spot as far as the entertainment. So Bill Cosby became the philanthropist. Dick Gregory became a humanitarian. And whose legacy is still standing as we speak? Whose legacy is still intact? And that's another story. They're both great friends. But if you like what you heard from Mr. Herb, please spread the word. And also feel free to donate. I'm going to post in the chat how you could donate because, like I said, I'm a man on the move. I'm about the movement. Life is about movement. If you stop moving, that means you're dead or you're dead in the water. Because like Dr. King said, if a man ain't willing to die for anything, he ain't fit to live. And I'm living my life, my God work, and serving the people to the best of my abilities. But I like to treat this not as a sprint, but as a marathon. So I need you all's help out there as we go along in this sojourn, my fellow warriors. So speaking of Dick Gregory, you can't speak about Dick Gregory without talking about Medgar Evers. And we're going to talk about Medgar Evers. I'm just getting warmed up, everybody. And thank y'all for being very patient with me. Hope everything's coming in loud and clear. If you can't hear the words from Brother Hurd, please let me know in the chat room. I'll be reading commentary shortly or comments. But yeah, I really I'm blessed. I'm lucky to be of service to the people. I am blessed to be of service to the people. Thank you. Loud and clear. Excellent. Just posting, let people know how they can get at me. Not in a bad way, but like, you know, how they can help me out to do the things I'm doing. But yeah, we can talk about LeBron James all day. I think LeBron James is very fascinating. I respect LeBron James. He's an all-time great. He's definitely in the top 10. At the end of the day, he's going to be in the top 10. No doubt. Mm-hmm. But Medgar Evers is a GOAT. And I mean, what he has done for our people, he should be just as celebrated as a LeBron James or Beyonce, as far as I'm concerned. He made the ultimate sacrifice for our people. And he should just be remembered for that. But Dick Gregory, the reason why Baba got into the movement because he was inspired by Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers, think about this. Dick Gregory was friends with the M brothers, right? He was close friends with Martin Luther King Jr., with Malcolm X, and with Medgar Evers. All three of those guys died in their 30s, with fathers, married, with families. Medgar Evers was just 37 years old when he died. Was killed right in front of his young family. Malcolm X was just 39 years old when he died, was killed right in front of his family. Dr. King was just 39 when he died. He was killed in Memphis away from his family. But I got it on one of my videos with Dr. King, son Martin Luther King III, and Dick Gregory did an event on King's Day 2016 in Nashville. He actually talked about what was going on in the King household at the time that they were made aware that their father had been assassinated in Memphis. He talked about that in that interview. You can find it in the We All Be TV archives. And I don't think he ever really talked about that before, about what was the real response time or what happened, how Coretta responded. Coretta was a warrior for her man and his movement and his ideas. We would not have a Dr. King without Coretta. That's why it's very important that you marry, or if you're going to partner with somebody, get somebody that's equally yoked, that understands you, that understands your purpose in the world, somebody who can amplify your existence. She was his Isis to his Osiris, because she had to resurrect her man, because everybody kept on telling her once Dr. King died, excuse me, you should move on, Coretta. It's over. But it's the reason why we know about Dr. King. I know people criticize how we remember him, how his legacy is viewed, but the reason why we know anything about him is because Coretta never forgot about her man. She picked up that torch and she carried it. She manifested that King Center. She made sure that the King birthday became a federal holiday. That blood sacrifice was not in vain. She rose to the occasion. Even when y'all get mad at the King family, she's the reason why they got anything to fight over in the first place, because she secured his intellectual property, his legacy. Now you can't compare and contrast it with Malcolm X's children. There's no reason that they are broke or poor or whatever. If they got any type of financial issues, they should not have any type of financial issues, because their father, and even their mothers, their fathers, their mother, Dr. Betty Shabazz, brother Malcolm X, they made the ultimate sacrifice for the people. Now we got all these people that say they admire these people, but yet these folks, they found to be all type of legal troubles, financial issues, and I don't know their business. What I'm saying is they should never want for anything, because they should be considered black royalty, because their loved ones made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of the people. You could hear about Medgar Evers' response to what happened to her lover, her partner, her best friend, Medgar Wally Evers. Like I said, he was killed before his family. He came home from his headquarters in Jackson. Just saw President Kennedy make a speech about he's going to be stronger in his resolves to advocate for civil rights for African Americans. He had high hopes. I don't think he was expecting to be killed that night coming home, getting out the car. From my understanding, he had T-shirts for the NAACP youth volunteers, and he was getting out his car. His family was looking at the replay of the JFK speech, and they heard the shot. And I'm not going to get all into it, but my understanding, the shot left a big hole in his chest. He was shot in the back by Byron De La Beckwith, a white, I call him a white, y'all call him white supremacist, a white mediocrity. He was a white mediocrity activist and a Klansman. He, in sniper fashion, shot Medgar Evers in the back. And so Medgar Evers had a huge opening in his chest. He was rushed to the hospital. He actually survived for 45 more minutes. He was that strong. He survived for 45 minutes. He was actually still conscious and talking to people with a hole in his chest, and he died. He's 37 years old, buried in Arlington Cemetery, a soldier's burial, and rightfully so. He was a soldier. He was a casualty of war. The family had a chance to meet with JFK. There's a picture of Medgar Evers' widow, Marilee, with her children, her young children, and her brother-in-law, Charles Evers, with President John F. Kennedy, who ironically would be killed only a few months later. 1963 was a very, very bloody year for activists and people who had other ideas that challenged the status quo. That was a bloody year, because also you got to remember, you had the March on Washington, but in September, you also had the 4 little girls getting killed in Birmingham, 16th Street Baptist Church. And also, people forget about two other black children that were killed that day, Virgil Ware and another brother. Young kids, young black kids under assault. But not you can't be safe in a church. That let you know that we're living in hell. Y'all talking about heaven, but y'all living in hell. You don't even know it. When you can't be safe doing Sunday school in the church, think about what happened 3 years ago at Mother Emmanuel in Charleston. Like I said, Charleston is where the Civil War started. Fort Sumter and Charleston Harbor. But you had Dylan Roof come in at the same church where Dingmar Vesey was a member of, the guy who tried to plan an insurrection to free his enslaved people and got snitched on and hanged. He came in there and shot up them 9 black folks. And people talking about we pray and forgive him. The devil don't need your mercy. The devil don't need your grace. He never asked for it, and he don't accept it, he don't respect it. But yet, you got to start thinking about this stuff. We got to start thinking about this. Because the black church at one point was producing people like Dingmar Vesey, like Nat Turner, like Harriet Tubman, like Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. And now what's going on now? What's going on? So Medgar Evers, 37 years old, killed in front of his family. Medgar Evers, World War II veteran. He was there during D-Day. I think he was a part of the Red Ball Express. Y'all don't know who the Red Ball Express were. Y'all can Google it, but I'll tell y'all a quick synopsis of who the Red Ball Express was. Because my maternal grandfather, the late great Arthur Soldier Boy Grip Taylor, was a member of the Red Ball Express. And really the Red Ball Express was like a majority truck driving company that was attached to the 3rd Army. 3rd Army U.S. General Patton. Y'all know about General Patton, right? Guts and Glory, or whatever the name was. He slapped people, had post-traumatic stress disorder, who was shell-shocked. That General Patton. The one that George C. Scott played in that 4-hour movie. That General Patton. They were responsible for delivering supplies and food and ammunition to the 3rd Army once they invaded Normandy, which is known as D-Day. So they would drive in the nighttime getting shot at by snipers with no headlights on to make sure that the 3rd Army U.S. was supplied with the weapons and the food and ammunition and supplies, all the stuff they need. So Medgar Evers was a part of the Red Ball Express, as well as my grandfather and a lot of other black men. So they were part of D-Day. Contrary to that Steven Spielberg movie, Saving Private Ryan, you had the quasi mulatto dude and Vin Diesel, but you didn't see no black faces that were part of the Normandy invasion. And they were there. Black folks was there. My grandfather was there. So with that said, Medgar Evers fought for this country. So when he came back, he thought that his country should have fought for him as well. You understand? Medgar Evers came from a very interesting family. His brother Charles Evers, who is will be 96 years young, this coming September 11th of all days, healthy and still in his right mind. When I go to Jackson, Mississippi, I try to make it my business to stop by the radio station that his family runs and talk to brother Charlie Evers for a few moments to thank him. You might not agree with his point of views, but he is a veteran. He is a vet. He was willing to put his life on the line for what he wanted. His whole family was dedicated to liberation. So I got to thank him for that. So him and his brother was both World War II veterans. But when they came home, they thought, hey, we should have the right to vote. And it was challenged by folks they knew all their lives. You had white men standing at the courthouse with guns, guys they knew for a long time, they grew up with, saying, you can't vote, nigger. You can't vote here, boy. And I believe it was Charles Evers talked about a time when they did confront these white men, fresh out of World War II. And a white woman came who knew the Evers boys. He said, Charles, I agree with you, but now is not the day. Now is not the time. Like in the words of Dr. King, when they tell you to wait for something, wait really means never. But you got to think about it. The Civil Rights Movement could not happen without these veterans, these World War II and Korean War veterans, people like the Evers brothers, people like Robert F. Williams, who was a Marine up in North Carolina, Monroe, North Carolina, no Negroes with guns. That Robert F. Williams, World War II veteran. Amzie Moore, a key activist in the Mississippi Freedom Movement, World War II veteran. Dickens for Defense. These were black men who believed in armed self-defense. Veterans from World War II and Korea. You understand what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? So the movement, the people glorify the movement as being about young college students coming from the North to liberate the backwards black people. Now it was about the black family getting on one accord. Even the Montgomery bus boycott movement, you had the black man working with the black woman, working with the black child. Same thing in Birmingham. Project C Birmingham, 1963 was a very bloody year. And people realize even this year, we lost some veterans from that movement. We lost Dorothy Cotton last month. I didn't see a lot of people make a big fuss about Dorothy Cotton passing, but she was one of Dr. King's closest lieutenants. This is a black woman that Dr. King had a lot of respect for, that was very key in his movements down south to empower the people. And she passed away in June. Then you had Dr. Y.T. Walker, who was her minister. She got into the movement because she was a member of Dr. Y.T. Walker's church. This is another one of Dr. King's lieutenants. He was one of the masterminds behind Project C Birmingham. He was one of the reasons why it was so successful, because he understood the value of how to utilize black children being sent to jail, black children being attacked by dogs, German shepherds, and water hoses. He knew how to get the media to cover those things. Dr. Y.T. Walker was a part of Dr. King's brain. So you had the brain trust. Now a lot of his veterans are going home. We still got Reverend C.T. Vivian around. We still got Reverend Joseph Lowry around. We still got Dr. Bernard Lafayette II. We got a couple of King soldiers still around, but that inner circle is slowly going home to glory. So this is why I mentioned Dorothy Cotton. I bet a lot of y'all didn't know who she was. I mentioned Dr. Y.T. Walker. Y'all probably never heard of him, but he's in the YouTube clips with Malcolm X when they on them talk shows. He's in there in the mix. So this is why it's important to have your own media. And I'm doing Black First Media. I'm talking about our history, this thing of ours. So it's very important. It is very important. We love you madly too, brother. Asshole by nature. We love you madly. Thank you for being a supporter, a fan. And I'm glad. I hope everything's coming in loud and clear as I speak these things. And we're going to talk about, like I said, Medgar Evers was killed in front of his family at the age of 37. Had a funeral in Jackson. Dr. King came out. Dr. T.R.M. Howard. There was Medgar Evers' Jekna. Y'all don't even know about Dr. T.R.M. Howard. Read the book Black Maverick, written by the Betos. They historians from Alabama. Dr. Linda and Dr. David Beto wrote a book called Black Maverick that talks about this unusual, eccentric, brilliant man named Dr. T.R.M. Howard, who was a leader in the Mississippi Freedom Movement, who was arguably the wealthiest black man in Mississippi back in the 50s and the 60s. He was considered the wealthiest black man in Mississippi. Maybe not the 60s. I think he left for Chicago before. But he came to Mound Bayou, one of the first black towns in the nation, in the Mississippi Delta back in the 40s, to work at a hospital. He was a surgeon, a doctor, and he was known as the wealthiest black man in Mississippi, one of the founders of the Regional Council for Negro Leadership. They used to have an event that will bring about 10,000 to 20,000 black folks from around the Mississippi Delta will come to Mound Bayou for the Regional Council Negro Leadership Conference. The keynote speaker will be people like Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr., lawyer Thurgood Marshall, U.S. Representative Charles Diggs. Be prominent black men will come down to speak to these people about voter registration, about civil rights, about entrepreneurship. You also had people like Mahalia Jackson who provide entertainment for the Regional Council Negro Leadership Conference. So you had like 15,000 black folks on average come to these things. Fannie Lou Hamer was inspired to get involved in the movement by attending the Regional Council of Negro Leadership Conferences or events. So Google them up. But a great book to read is Black Maverick about Dr. T.R.M. Howard. It's a biography about Dr. T.R.M. Howard. He actually created the first black public swimming pool for black people in Mississippi. The first black public swimming pool for black folks in Mississippi. He also hired Medgar Evers out of college. Medgar Evers went to Alcorn State, the same college that produced Steve McNair. You know, this is 9-year anniversary of the mysterious death of Steve McNair, and I still don't believe that it was his girlfriend, his side chick, that killed him. I believe it was foul play involved, that both of them were victims of a homicide, and that's another story. You Google that up as well. But his first job out of college was working for Dr. T.R.M. Howard. He worked for his insurance company. Like I said, Dr. T.R.M. Howard was a wealthy black man. He had several business ventures. He had restaurants. He had a zoo. He had his own zoo. Made the first, like I said, public swimming pool for black folks in Mississippi. Was an interesting guy. Was a big game hunter. This cat would go over to Africa and other places around the world and hunt lions and rhinoceroses and stuff like that. Very fascinating man. And he's the reason why we know so much about the Emmett Till situation. I know that a lot of us can recall the first time we saw that face of Emmett Till, that disfigured face of Emmett Till in Jet magazine and all this stuff. But Dr. T.R.M. Howard led his own investigation into what happened to Emmett Till. And Medgar Evers, one of his proteges, who ended up becoming the field secretary for the NAACP, was working with Dr. T.R.M. Howard to identify witnesses, to help protect these witnesses, to really find out what happened to Emmett Till. It is because of what he did back in the day that we know that there was more than 2 men involved, that we had maybe upwards to 10 or 13 people involved, majority of them black people. He called out the FBI and was put on J. Edgar Hoover's enemies list. So Dr. Howard was an interesting guy, because when Mamie Till, the mother of Emmett Till, came down to the trial of the brothers, the white brothers who killed Emmett Till, Roy Bryant, whose wife allegedly said that Emmett Till wolf whistled at her, and decades later said that she lied about the whole thing. Roy Bryant and J.W. Malum, his half brother, was on trial. When she came to the Delta to attend the trial, I believe it happened in the fall of 55, she stayed at the home of Dr. T.R.M. Howard in Mississippi, Mound Bayou. Dr. Howard didn't believe in nonviolence. He believed in self-preservation. Like I said, he was a big game hunter, and he didn't want to be hunted himself. So he had some guns on him. He had an entourage. He had round-the-clock armed security. I believe they would actually meet Mamie Till in Memphis, and then they had a car entourage with armed black men escort her to his home in Mound Bayou. And then she had round-the-clock protection. And she talked about how she had so much respect for Dr. Howard, how she felt very safe in a very hostile environment. She felt very safe around him. And so that's why, a lot of us don't know about that stuff. We got to start investigating these things. Because it's already been investigated. It's out there. I'm just a person trying to get y'all to get more interested in this information instead of being always distracted about this media, sports, and Donald Trump, which it really is irrelevant to the survival of black people. We need to start focusing on us and start having dialogue that's centered around our stories, around our pain. We got to start really learning how to heal each other. So the reason I'm telling these stories, because I want y'all to understand that when you see black folks in distress, we don't criticize. Let criticism of any black person when they are in distress be the last thing on your mind. And may the first thing be in your mind is how I help this brother or sister. And this was happening back then in the 50s. This is why I'm telling these stories. So yeah, Dr. Howard helping out with that. And what people don't understand, in November of 55, Dr. Howard was invited to speak about the Emmett Till story to Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama, where you had a young minister named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was just 26 years old, was the new minister in town. He was there when Dr. Howard talked about the horrors of what happened to Emmett Till and about the trial. Because he's on the NAACP speaking engagement tour around the country talking about this. So you had in the crowd Rosa Parks, who was the secretary for the local NAACP, I believe headed by E.D. Nixon. So Rosa Parks would say years later what she was thinking about when she was sitting down refusing to move was about Emmett Till. And one of the reasons why she probably thought about that was because she just heard the speech that Dr. Howard did at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church several days early. Maybe I think it was either November 27th or November 28th when he did that speech at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. But read the Black Maverick and let you know everything. But he spoke at Medgar Evers' funeral, which was held in Jackson, Mississippi. Dr. King came out, NAACP. Fannie Lou Hamer, yeah, a lot of y'all probably may not know that Fannie Lou Hamer can sing. She actually could sing her. She had a fantastic voice, a very spiritual, powerful voice. And she sung Precious Lord at Medgar Evers' funeral. And that's online. You can YouTube her singing Precious Lord. It's about a 6-minute rendition, but it's worth listening to. Fannie Lou Hamer was an interesting person. She was the youngest of 20 children. So it took their family to help 19 more kids before they got her. That's how rare of a human being. That's how rare of a human being she was. She's the 20th child of her parents, the youngest of 20. That's what it takes to get a Fannie Lou Hamer. That's how much screwing you got to do. Just like how much screwing you got to do to get a Michael Jackson or a Janet Jackson. So somewhere. So Medgar, he was shot by Byron Day LeBeckwith, who was a well-known Klansman. Byron Day LeBeckwith was actually from California, but his daddy died when he was young, and his family moved back to his family's home in Mississippi. His mama died when he was young. Was raised by his kinfolk down in Mississippi, put up in boarding schools in Tennessee, was not a great student, joined the Marines, I believe, during World War II, got discharged, found himself back in Mississippi. He was living in Greenwood, but he went to Jackson, Mississippi to kill Medgar Evers. Had 2 trials. He actually was arrested on Medgar Evers' birthday. He was arrested July 2nd, 1963. Had 2 trials by all white male jury, hung juries both trials. Then he had the Ghost of Mississippi trial. With they had a new state attorney, his name DeLauder, something like that, who was played by Alec Baldwin in the movie. Whoopi Goldberg played Merle Evers. And my friend Bill Cobb played Charles Evers. Much respect to Bill Cobb. He's a great man. The third time they found him guilty. But what stuck with me about Medgar Evers was I saw that autopsy thing they used to do on HBO, the documentary with the famous forensics guy. What was it, Dr. Michael Basin or Basson or something like that, Baden. And they exhumed the body of Medgar Evers from Arlington Cemetery. And when they, his son, I think Daryl, that's his name, who's passed away. I think he died in 2001. He died a while back, but he was young when his father got killed. They exhumed his body from Arlington. The doctor didn't know what to expect when they exhumed the body. Man was in mint condition, like he just died yesterday. His body was well preserved, like it was waiting for that moment for history to validate his martyrdom, to get him justice. Body was well preserved. And that stuck with me. But Medgar Evers was different to me because you can't really find too much audio on Medgar Evers, him speaking himself, not to my knowledge. But just the way he carried himself, that the regalness, the confidence, and the love, you could see in his demeanor from the photographs, and how people like Dick Gregory spoke so lovingly of him. Like he was just a guy that he could not disappoint you. And that's the reason why they had to kill him. Because he's a guy that stood on principle and character. And that's why they had to kill him. He wouldn't compromise. And he was willing to give his life for his family. 37 years old. Now, you compare and contrast that with his brother Charles Evers. A lot of folks don't care for Charles Evers. So I ain't gonna say a lot of folks, but people got their little thing. I love Charles Evers. Charles Evers is one of the greatest characters, man. Hollywood could not create a man like him. He is so unique. He's a maverick and a gangster and a pimp. He was all of that, right? When his brother got killed, Charles Evers was in Chicago, pimping, running clubs, juke joints, whatever, doing things with the mob. You know what I'm saying? Charles Evers was just being a gangster up in Chicago. Brother gets killed. He taking a Delta flight to Memphis with guns. This is before September 11th. So he had guns with him going down to Mississippi to kill the people that killed his brother. A blood vendetta. But what ended up happening when he got down to Mississippi, he took his brother's place as the field secretary for the Mississippi NACP. And he became the first black lawyer in the South since Reconstruction back in 1969. And he also ran for U.S. Senate from Mississippi and got, I want to say, almost 30% of the vote. This is back on, I think it was in the 70s or 80s. But Charles Evans was an interesting guy, or is an interesting guy. Uh, Man, he loved women. He got a lot of children all over the place. And that's beautiful. And he loves his children. And but like I said, he's a colorful guy. I didn't realize until recently when I was looking at a documentary about RFK on Netflix that Charles Evans was there at the Ambassador Hotel the night they killed RFK. And they interviewed him on TV. And I just like, wow, this guy, he definitely could identify with Robert Kennedy because he lost his brother. They both lost their brothers in 1963. You know, and he was the one that helped, act as a tour guide for Bobby Kennedy when he visited the Mississippi Delta. When Bobby Kennedy could not even believe that people in America lived so poor without floors, without shoes or pants, he actually was crying because he's the son of privilege. They had no idea that people in America live like the way they do in the Mississippi Delta. Not all of Mississippi Delta. Mississippi is a strange place. It's a place of extreme poverty as well as extreme wealth, but it's really America. So, he became a supporter of Robert Kennedy, and he was there the night when Robert Kennedy was assassinated. And so Charles Evans has lived a full life, but he's not everybody's cup of tea because he speaks his mind. And the reason why he's still alive because he ain't trying to be nobody's martyr. He ain't trying to be nobody's martyr. And not saying that Medgar was want to be anybody's martyr, but he knew that at the time it was a time for martyrs. But Medgar Evers also believed in armed resistance. He was a fan of Jomo Kenyatta, I believe Jomo Kenyatta, the brother who led the Kenyan resistance. His son, I think his son named Durrell or Darnell, his middle name is Kenyatta. So he was a fan of the Mau Mau's, and he carried guns on him. Cause I say he was a World War II veteran, so he had guns in his car, but he just couldn't reach his gun in time to protect himself. He had guns in the house, but it is what it is. That's history, how some things play out. But y'all should really check out Charles Evans. He wrote his own book. He's a Republican. He's pro-Trump. And but he's been a Republican for a long time. And a lot of time, it was a time when a lot of black folks were Republicans before the 60s. I mean, some people changed over with FDR, but really when the 60s came about and Lyndon B. Johnson, he basically said we got the black vote for the next 200 years. And it's sad but true because we are the only group of people in America that don't really ask for anything in terms of our political loyalty. We the only group of America that don't really ask for anything. Even illegal immigrants ask for stuff. They're not even citizens. So that's another story. But I know a lot of people. I interviewed Charles Evers several times, and he's not everybody's cup of tea. And who gives a damn? You know what I'm saying? The guy has lived an extraordinary life, and really, his life should be a blueprint for you. Not necessarily you got to follow everything he did, but live your life. Live your life. Reclaim your narrative. Be your movie star. Your life is your movie. You can decide what type of genre of movie you want your life to be. But live your life so you can be a shining example because you lived your life. Not because you're trying to be a role model. Anybody can be a role model. You can learn as much from a wino as well as a lawyer or from a prostitute as well as a judge. But the thing about it is you can learn from everybody. A broke clock is right, what, twice a day or 2 times a day? A broke clock is right. So God always could put wisdom in the mouths of fools. Does it all the time. That's how the universal God works, okay? So, Byron Day LeBeckwith, he was tracked down. He was living in Signal Mountain, Tennessee, outside of Chattanooga. They tracked him down, found guilty the 3rd time of killing Medgar Evers. For killing Medgar Evers, lived out the rest of his days in jail, died, I believe, January 20th, 2011. I mean, not 2011, 2001 at the age of 80. And his son recently said, maybe in the last 5-6 years, that there was more than one killer involved in the assassination of Medgar Evers. I believe that because you got to understand, Check out a documentary called Spies of Mississippi. I actually interviewed the sister Dawn Porter, I believe her name was, or is. I interviewed her with my good friend, Sister Margaret Block, may she rest in forever peace, from Cleveland, Mississippi. The sister of Sam Block, a civil rights icon. The people in the civil rights, who study the civil rights movement know about her brother Sam Block and about Sister Margaret Block. So I interviewed Dawn Porter and Sister Margaret Block because she was featured in the documentary Spies of Mississippi. And you talking about how the state of Mississippi had a thing called the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission, which really the government is really COINTELPRO spying on black activists in Mississippi. They were using black spies to spy on black activists. So you had black folks that were being used to spy on other black people like Medgar Evers. Her sister Margaret Block had a prominent relative, I believe an uncle who was a prominent educator who was a spy for the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission. You also had the White Citizen Council. So you had the government of Mississippi involved in neutralizing black civil rights activists. And now the state of Mississippi got the nerve to create these civil rights trails and blues marker trails and civil rights museums and blues festivals, and not really compensate the victims of white terrorism. They have yet to compensate the families of state-sponsored white terrorism. They're making all those blood sacrifices. They're making a profit. And you still got poor black folks in Mississippi whose families have been victimized by the state. You see how that stuff works? Donald Trump came down last December for the opening of the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum. People protest him coming there. And I just think that's bullshit because he did not create the conditions. Yeah, I like Donald Trump invented slavery, invented America, invented capitalism, invented racism. He's a privileged child of the system. My thing is, we get all in our emotions. Like I said, we're not asking for nothing. The governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant, for example, this is not his fault. But from my understanding, he is the nephew of Roy Bryant, the guy who killed and kidnapped Emmett Till. And yeah, he's the governor of Mississippi. But when that happened, he was a little baby. He's like maybe 1 year old. I don't think he was one. Was he 1 year old when all that Emmett Till stuff went down? I don't know. But he's a member of the Roy Bryant family. That's his uncle, the guy who was once married to Carolyn Bryant. Yeah, they got y'all thinking that Carolyn Bryant is dead. She is still alive. But I be hearing celebrities is working on these Emmett Till projects like Taraji P. Henson and other people talking about, well, she died. She didn't die. Her sister-in-law died. Carolyn Bryant is still alive. The Carolyn Bryant that the historian from Duke University, Tim Tyson, interviewed, who said that Emmett Till didn't do anything, she lives. She's probably still alive because she was living in Greenville, Mississippi for years. But now I believe she's living in North Carolina. And Tim Tyson, I say he was a historian for Duke. So it makes sense probably he met her and interviewed her in North Carolina. But Phil Bryant, that's his former auntie. Or maybe he might consider her family, and he might have helped cover her up. Because they actually, because talking about, oh my God. They went out to Byron-Day LeBeckwith for a third time. The first two trials ended in a hung jury. Is there a thing called double jeopardy? They went out to Bill Cosby. But yet, when they exhumed Emmett Till's body, I believe it was in 2005, the FBI exhumed his body, and people proved that Carolyn Bryant was there that night at Emmett Till's great uncle Moses Wright's home. She identified Emmett Till. So she's a part of the kidnapping and murder. She's an accessory, but they didn't try her. You had a black prosecutor down there in Sunflower County, I believe. I'm not saying it's on her, but what I'm saying is they didn't try her. They had the evidence that she was there, that she was a part of the kidnapping and the killing. She might not actually killed Emmett Till, but she went to the home of Moses Wright, identified Emmett Till, and they took him from his family. So she's complicit in the killing of Emmett Till. So why isn't her ass in jail? Why is she not in jail? See what I'm saying? Like, Bill Cosby, you raped her during a Selma march. Where's the statute of limitations? You know what I'm saying? And the woman that got Bill Cosby on, he already settled out of court with her. He gave her a multi-million-dollar settlement. He had the promise from the district attorney at the time that they would not use what he said under oath against him in future court proceedings. So basically, the system double crossed his ass, and meanwhile, the woman who identified Emmett Till, who lied about him doing anything unbecoming to her, is still alive and protected, and whose nephew, by marriage, is the governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant. Yeah, Brother Williams, I do know what we're dealing with, but I want us to understand. I don't want to share this misery by myself. You know, they said misery loves company. So I want to spread the misery around. So all these people talking about when somebody shoot your grandma in the face in the church, you talking about I want to forgive them. Think about what I'm saying. They don't need your forgiveness when they got a system that protects their wickedness. Their wickedness. They don't need your grace or mercy or forgiveness when the system protects their wicked asses. You understand what I'm saying? Just like people telling people, oh, they killing black people. Make these police pay for liability insurance. Now, y'all, you know, I'm not as popular as some of these other YouTubers and stuff like that, but I know that when I say stuff, people tend to pick it up and they make it in their own way. Let me tell you, see the words come out of my mouth? Make the police pay for liability insurance, and police brutality will be on a very, very fast decline. Trust me. Make their ass pay for liability insurance. Just like a lot of us can't afford health insurance, start making them try to pay them expensive ass premiums when they start jacking up folks and folks start suing the police department and all that shit. They won't be getting moved around like pawns on a goddamn chessboard. They won't have no jobs. They'll be getting unemployment checks. Listen to what I'm saying. Yeah. And Medgar Evers was willing to die for his family. And men, like Judge Joe Brown been on here, it is our duty to protect our families. Like I said, the Montgomery bus boycott was more than just about a bus boycott. It was about protecting black women from being raped by white men who abused their power. Go back to Reese Taylor. What happened to her when she was gang raped, coming home from church September 3rd, 1944 in Alabama, by white men who confessed, but the law would not even charge them with anything. It would not even convict or indict them on anything. They confessed to raping this woman, this young 24-year-old black woman with a young child and a husband at home. They, you know, then y'all, Oprah Winfrey gonna use that lady's pain for her political agenda? Gonna make it synonymous with Me Too? When a lot of the Me Too people are really this privileged. Let me stop. Let me roll it back. I don't even want to talk about that. I'm gonna roll it back. But our people, man, we want white folks to acknowledge us. Even Donald Trump, really what bothers black folks is that they want Donald Trump to like them. What really bothers a lot of black people is that why don't he like us? Can he acknowledge us? I know I just want Donald Trump to pat me on my head and say, thank you. I said, oh, Boss Trump, we love you, Boss Trump. And they're all sick to me, you know, in terms of when you start figuring out how this game goes, we are all blood sacrifices. Y'all, I like the Illuminati ain't real. It's very much real. The Illuminati is the devil. What the devil do? Devil convinced the world that he doesn't exist. So y'all really don't believe the Illuminati exists. Now Illuminati is that these are folks that can read books. Imagine, let me hear the Middle Ages. You know how stained glass came about? Majority of the people could not read. If you could read and write, you was part of the elites. You were part of the elite group. So in order to educate people about religion and the Bible, they created stained glass. This is during the Middle Ages, during the Dark Ages for Europe. So now we're at a point now where they stop teaching folks how to do cursive writing. They do not teach critical thinking. So we're getting to the point now they can do anything to us because people don't read for themselves. They don't research for themselves. They don't know how to do critical thinking analysis. So this is where we're at now. We're back in the Middle Ages. We think we're in the age of technology, but we're back in the Dark Ages. And yes, the Illuminati exists because whoever are the gatekeepers of the knowledge, they can illuminate things to you. Think about the Vatican. You know, that Vatican library underneath the Vatican. Okay, they got all types of artifacts down there. But they got things that could be of interest to you. But if you don't ask the right questions, you won't get the right answers. There's no such thing as a stupid question or a stupid answer. But if you don't ask the right questions, that's the game they play. It's like, what Denzel? What Denzel say in Training Day? It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. How can you prove it? Do you know how to research for it? Do you know how to do the critical thinking that comes with that? So, do you know how to challenge the status quo? So, this is what they do. So, they're making a whole bunch of functional literate people. Like, I'd be afraid to go to grocery stores and restaurants because people don't know how to count. They don't know how to do basic arithmetic. Folks don't know how to do basic arithmetic. So I'd rather give them my credit card or my debit card instead of dealing with somebody that don't know how to count. You got to have pictures on the keyboard. Oh, this is so they got, I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And y'all know I'm right about this. Yeah. It's a crazy game. It's a interesting game we playing. But yeah, Medgar Evers dead, 37. But he made a difference. And I will hope that I want to encourage you all. I believe that Medgar Evers several years ago put out a book with his writings. Maybe not necessarily autobiography, but it's based on letters he wrote to people, I think correspondence and stuff like that. You get a mindset into what a person like that was willing to do in order to liberate himself as well as his people. But the thing you could do if you want to change the world, you gotta be willing to put your life on the line. Like Dr. King said, if a man ain't willing to die for something, he isn't fit to live. So think about that. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the gifted person in the world. You just gotta be willing to put your life on the line for what you want and make it happen by any means necessary. Yes, by any means necessary. I hate when black folks say that and then they say, well, I mean, no, by any means necessary. Just like people do to keep you disenfranchised and keep you on the bottom. What they do, by any means necessary. If it means killing your leadership, if it means poisoning your children's drinking supply, if it means poisoning your children's mind, if it means sterilizing your women, if it means giving you cancer, if it means anything, they willing to do that in order to stay in power. And this is the problem with black folk. We're not willing to do what it takes to get some power. We're not willing to do what it takes. Because once again, it does not come down to us wanting power. We want to be liked, if not loved by white people. The majority of us. I don't care what nobody say. If it's not true, then how come we still in the same position as a people? We want to be loved and liked by white people. Listen a minute. Black folks are a white man's best friend, not his dog. They actually treat their dog better than us, and we're more loyal to white people than their dogs are. Yeah, I said it. Nobody celebrates 4th of July harder than black people. Our 4th of July should be our Juneteenth. But yeah, black folks want to say, well, Juneteenth ain't real. But 4th of July, well, but 4th of July, yeah, buddy. Wear the flag as a shirt. You know what I'm saying? Barbecuing. You don't give a damn. We love it. You know, America is your mama. That's right. This is America. This is America. My YouTube channel, man, don't make a difference about being outnumbered, outgunned. Look at the Vietnamese. I mean, people keep on saying that. We outnumbered. That's like giving you an excuse for not to protect your kid. Oh, man, the police got more guns. That's why my kid could be just clay pigeon for law enforcement. Okay, keep on thinking like that. Let me talk about the outnumbered, outgunned mess. I'm going to put that to rest right quick. We all be. Somebody said, well, we all be TV. Just look it up. Put in we all be TV. Look, the guys who fought against the British, they were outnumbered and outgunned. Those so-called founding fathers, but they knew if they lost that war, their ass was good as dead. They knew that because they were traitors to the crown. So they lost the Revolutionary War, the so-called Revolutionary War. They was gonna be hanged. They're gonna be put to death because they were terrorists, enemies of the state. The stakes were high. Like Patrick Henry said, he said, give me liberty or give me death. Brother Malcolm said, by any means necessary. But yet, Negroes want to qualify that. Patrick Henry didn't need no qualification. He said, shit, even, what was the guy that ran in 64, the Republican, that ran against Johnson from Arizona. John McCain got his Senate seat. He said something about extremism can be a virtue. That means, do what it takes to win, baby. Win, baby, win. America don't like losers. We love the winners. And by any means necessary, I mean just that. So when Patrick Henry said by give me liberty or give me death, he meant that shit. When Nathaniel Hale, the American spy, said, my only regret is that I have only one life to give for my country, he meant that shit. When Dr. King said, if a man ain't willing to die for anything, he ain't fit to live, guess what? He meant that too. So what I'm saying is, you don't want to put your life on the line for anything you believe in or a principle on anything. I'm not saying being reckless. Like Negroes want to say, well, no, you got to pick your spots. This is the art of war. Lest you don't understand what revolutionary suicide is. Understand that. Understand the art of war. What I'm saying is, you can win. Because war is really more about the mental than anything. Like the art of war talks about not going to war, but how to control propaganda. It's about manipulation of your resources. It's not necessarily how I always got to go to war. You got to have to, like with the Spanish-American War, how America got into that was because of what? The yellow journalism, the fake news of the generation, of that generation. When Randolph Hearst. You think about the Vietnamese. Ho Chi Minh was an admirer of America. The North Vietnamese Declaration of Independence is based upon America's Declaration of Independence. Ho Chi Minh used to visit America to hear Marcus Garvey do his speaking. He was an admirer of Marcus Garvey and the Black Liberation Movement. He tried to talk to President Woodrow Wilson when he was in Paris during the peace accords, the Treaty of Versailles. He was trying to talk to Woodrow Wilson back in 1919 to recognize the Vietnamese plight and to recognize how they admired Americans' form of independence. But Woodrow Wilson wouldn't even meet with Ho Chi Minh. Can you imagine if he really took him seriously? What could have been avoided decades later? It's like when Woodrow Wilson made the Federal Reserve real in order to win the 1912 election. He said that was the biggest mistake of his career, was signing the Federal Reserve into law. And also, he should add the fact that him not meeting with Ho Chi Minh was one of the biggest blunders, but he didn't live that long. They cracked him down in 1924. He had a stroke or heart attack in office, was incapacitated for the majority of his second term. You can look that up too. His wife was running his White House. That should be a movie. I think Sister Carol welcome. Well, Squeaky G, like slavery is a choice, raising your kids is a choice. I ain't mad at your brother, but we got to stop that. My thing is, I don't want to raise no cowards, man. I don't want to raise cowardice. I don't have any children, but my thing is this. I be hearing people teaching their kids to be afraid of police. You should be afraid of no police. You know what I'm saying? You should be afraid of police. You should be afraid of not knowing who you are. Thank you, brother Squeaky G. But I understand where you're coming from too. But I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that think about the Maroons, right? The Maroons in Jamaica, how they resisted. Nobody respects a person that doesn't fight for what they want or fight for themselves. It's hard to respect anybody that doesn't fight for themselves. We as a group, we're not fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for acceptance, and it's killing us. We're fighting to be accepted by a dehumanizing and inhumane system, and it's killing us in more than one ways. And we need to learn how to fight for something that's more than that. I want a future that's more than that. Medgar Evers was willing to put his life on line for something more than what they was giving him. He was willing to die for what he want, and that what made his fight so righteous. Is that Byron De La Beckwith was not willing to die for what he wanted. He was willing to kill somebody else for what he wanted, but was he willing to put his own life in jeopardy for what he wanted? And really, he was operating from a system of privilege. We gotta understand when white people think of racism as being an emotion. No, it's a system. Racism does not deal with emotion. It deals with systems. It's like saying, well, they're racist. I said, are they mean? You can be prejudiced as human beings, but everybody can't be a racist because it deals with a system dynamic that was put in place by people. Racism has to be agreed upon by the oppressor as well as the oppressed. Racism has to be agreed upon by the oppressor, as well as the oppressed. Go back to what First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt said. She said, "You cannot make me feel inferior without my consent." That's why slavery is a choice. You get emotional about that shit, but our ancestors knew it was a choice. That's why they picked up their gun. They was willing to risk their lives to fight for the Union, to fight for themselves. John Brown knew he could not free black folks, but he knew that I could give them a choice. If I get these guns, they can decide if they want to fight for themselves. He knew he couldn't free nobody. You have to free yourself. But if I give you some tools and say, look, here are the tools, I can show you how to use these tools, but it's upon you to use the tools for your own salvation, for your own liberation. Nobody can fight your battles for you. That's what I'm saying. When people say the troops died for me, they didn't die for me. I didn't ask them to put their lives on the line for me. I did not ask the so-called troops to put their lives on the line for me. But what they are doing, they are protecting the interests of America, the corporation, and its allies. Go back to Smedley Butler. So they're gonna never get tired of saying this name because people are like, this is new, but people say they need Baba Dick Gregory, they need a Steve Coakley. These brothers were messengers. You don't need them. You need to get that message and do something with the message and add on to that message for the next generation, for the liberation. Smedley Butler was the most decorated U.S. Marine in history. He won 2 congressional medals. Normally, when you win a congressional medal of honor, a lot of times the person is deceased, but he won twice. He won one for the Spanish-American War. He won one for the Boxer Rebellion. But he figured out something. He said, I thought I was a patriot when I was fighting for multinational corporations to make governments, to make self-governments, to make governments own. They were going to blood sacrifice FDR, make him president,